Hello, and welcome to the Sunbloom Conversations, a series of conversations from around the world inspired by the censorship on social media of an image of a breastfeeding mother. I'm Claire Tchaikovsky, the founder of Human Milk, an award-winning clothing brand and global education movement that supports the well-being of women and their families by communicating the science of human milk and breastfeeding. Today I'm talking with Claudia Duarte and Pushpa Panadam in Paraguay about their breastfeeding experiences 30 years apart and about Claudia's moving experience of birthing and feeding her premature daughter whilst ill with COVID. So hello, Pushpa and Claudia. Thank you so
Hello.
much for being here. And Pushpa, you are a La Leche League leader.
Yes.
And Claudia, you are joining us as well as a breastfeeding mother. And I can't wait to hear everything that you have to say. Is there anything you'd like to say about yourselves and why you wanted to join this call?
I don't know whether Claudia would like to start first because, she's still breastfeeding her baby.
Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself. Well, I'm working as a teacher, and I am a mother of a 1-year-old little girl. I am still breastfeeding her, and I decided to do that because I know all the benefits that it has for her and also for me. But of course, there are many barriers. Can I say? I don't know, barreras, right? In our society, in our culture, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but you have to, I mean, as a mother, we have to know that it's good for us and it's good for our babies. And I would like this all mothers know, because I know many people, many mothers that they just pay attention to what society says and they stop breastfeeding. I just want people know all the benefits of breastfeeding.
This is one of the central premises for the project and for Human Milk, why we exist. It really is to communicate this information to as many women as possible so that then we make our choices. So you talked about barriers, and it sounds like you also had some information. So what are those barriers, and where did you find the information that you needed to get you to this confident place where you're feeding your baby for as long as you both want to?
Well, my baby, she was born with 7 months, right? 30 weeks more or less, because I got infected with the COVID. So we had a lot of problems, and she stayed at the hospital for 30 days, and I stayed with her, right? And thanks God, I say, in that hospital, they really know the importance of breastfeeding, because telling you the truth, I just knew the basic things, what other women maybe know, right? But just basic things. But there I could discover more benefits, and not only that, she could survive because of the breastfeeding, right? And I'm about to cry because that was a very impact situation for me, right? And she could survive because of this. And I didn't even sleep during those days because I had to extraer, la leche. I had to do that.
Yeah, express. Yeah.
Express, yeah.
Express, yeah.
I had to do that every 2 hours. And I did, I discovered that I could do that. And when she was able to breastfeed, I continued, and I didn't stop till now. She's 1 year old already. And well, those nurses, doctors informed me about the benefits, and I could live that with her. You see, she survived because of my milk. And that is what I can say, right? That is what I passed with her.
Thank you for telling us this. This is a really powerful story, a really powerful journey you've been through and are still going through, because she's still very little. And wow.
I learned a lot. If I was alone, I don't think I would like. People need information. Otherwise, we as mothers, of course, we want the best for our kids. But if we don't know, we are going to do whatever we think it's okay, and maybe it's not, right? Then when I was out of the hospital, many people told me, no, you don't sleep anymore. Stop doing that. You have to rest at night. You have to sleep at least 1 hour. And I was like a zombie those days, but I didn't stop. You see, it was difficult. It was very difficult to continue the first month, but it was possible. Uh, the thing is that at the hospital there were a lot of babies, and the COVID, I was just one survivor, and she was another survivor. But there were more mothers with COVID, and they couldn't survive. Just the baby survived, and I realized the poor baby that was alone without the mother, it was very difficult to them to survive. I saw babies dying there. That was super difficult to see. You see, the baby alone. Some of them died alone. All of those things that I passed there show me that this is important. You see, it helped the baby. It helped me as a mother. Um, and yeah, she survived. I continue like not sleeping for 2 or 3 months. Then it got better day by day, and now we sleep like together. We sleep a lot together. She sleeps with me because I breastfeed her at night, and it's okay for me. And you know, one thing, from the day that I was out of the hospital till now, that she is 1 year old, she was never ever sick. And she was a baby. She was a premature baby, and the doctors told me that she could have many problems. You see, and I think it's thanks to this, to the breastfeeding.
I really want to take a moment to honor what you went through and how much you went through and how difficult it must have been at times. I'm so happy to hear that you had knowledgeable people around you. Did you yourself at any point think, I can't do this, I don't want to do this anymore, it would be easier to, you know, give a bottle at night for somebody else? Or what did you go through in those moments where you were really exhausted?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. When you are very tired, sometimes you think everything, you see. And
Sure.
I thought that, but at the same time, I thought of the benefits, and I I didn't do. I just didn't do. I thought that, but then I didn't do, because after I um, went out of the hospital, I had the opportunity to know this Liga de la Leche from Paraguay, and they also gave me a lot of information. Even people that are with you in those moments, they don't like they don't understand what you really want, and they tell you, no, you are how do you say, you are stupid because you do that. Don't do this anymore. You have the bottle. It's easier, and your meal doesn't feel her. I don't know if this is expression, but in Spanish,
Yes.
it's not tu leche. Oh my God, I hear that many times, and I had to be the strong enough, right? not not to, I mean, not that affect me. I don't know if I'm speaking okay, but because if that affected me, of course it affected me. But I tried not, because otherwise I would stop, and I didn't want to stop.
I relate to very, very much both your story as a mother and also culturally very similar to the UK where we are. And I'm wondering, what is normal for, because you mentioned about breastfeeding just for 6 months, and is this the time scale that you're given? Where do you get those messages from, and what are those messages about what is normal?
I think it's just culture. You see, people from like before, they had they had this information that you only have to breastfeed for 6 months, and then the milk becomes water, and they stop, and they continue giving that information to other generations.
So
And
that myth really is traveling the world, right?
yeah,
Because same thing here. It's
really.
traveling the world. Yeah. Can I just ask you, Pushpa, because you said you breastfed 30 years ago. Now you support women to breastfeed as a La Leche League leader. Were those messages already the same back then when you were breastfeeding?
You know, I had my baby in 93, which was the start of the baby-friendly hospital. And in Malaysia, my daughter was born in Malaysia. And well, they were promoting, but what I realize now is they didn't know how to help. I mean, they would say, okay, breastfeed. Because I saw my baby after 24 hours. You know, I had a lot of problems. So I saw her 24 hours later, and they just brought the baby. She was having her drips, and I was also having my drips, and they just brought and gave it to me and said, breastfeed your baby. You know, and here I am looking at my baby, and I say, what do I do? You know, how do I hold? Like, because I really didn't attend any support group during pregnancy. I didn't really read, but I had in my mind I was going to breastfeed because I was a consumer teacher, so everything has to be natural. And my sister had breastfed her kids, but she didn't come to help me because she lives in another city and all that. And so she just looked at me, you know, I mean, that look, it's like sealed deep within me until now. She gave me that look and she started to breastfeed. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I had this baby, I was looking at her and she was looking at me and she started to nurse. And I stayed in the hospital for 1 week because I had a second surgery within 2 days for my ovarian cyst. So they brought the baby to me and I needed a lot of help, you know, but the nurses weren't really helpful because I'm dark skinned, my daughter is fair. So they didn't think she was my baby because, you know, they had her separately until they brought her to me. So they would actually look, and these tags were important. The baby, you know, they put the tag, the baby tag.
Yes, yes, with the name and
yes, they would
they
look
were
at the
linking
mother.
you.
Yeah, and say, okay, this baby doesn't look like anyone here. She's dark, the baby's fair, you know. And I remember when the nurse saw me with my baby, and when the doctors were doing their rounds, she says, oh, this is your baby. Imagine. And I think that is another thing, you know, culturally we are in our mind how the baby has to look like the mother, but the baby can look like the father, the grandparents, or anybody, you know. So my mom said I had to breastfeed every 2 or 3 hours and not all the time when the baby needs. So the information my friend gave me was, she said, Pushpa, remember, breastfeed the baby every time the baby needs it and don't give anything else. You know, she just said that, but she didn't come to help me how to, you know, hold the baby or what. So I'm very happy to hear Claudia's information that the health professionals actually helped her, gave her the right information, because she had a baby during the COVID period. And what we were getting is that in many hospitals, the health professionals were separating mothers and babies. And here she had a baby who is born premature, and yet they helped, and they didn't give the bottle, they gave with a cup and the spoon. So I'm really very happy to hear that, you know.
Yeah.
There were things that I was doing really badly. For instance, I mean, I had in my mind that I need to breastfeed my baby every time, you know, she just looked and all that. But my baby wasn't sleeping on my bed. She was sleeping in the cot that was next to my husband's side. So every time my baby needed, I had to get up and carry my baby and, you know, to breastfeed her. But in Malaysia, it was fine because the climate is not cold. And I was able to breastfeed her until I came here to Paraguay. I was exclusively breastfeeding, but I didn't have that support or the information. So my mom-in-law, you know, I didn't have the language to communicate to. So they were always saying, you know, it's enough, you know. So when she was a year plus, 1 year, 2 months, and I started having nausea. I didn't know I was pregnant with my son. So she just said, okay, stop breastfeeding, because when I found I was pregnant, she says, okay, you can't, it's not so good, you know. So that was very abrupt. The weaning process was very abrupt, and she would cry, and it's really not an easy time. And when my baby, my second, was born here in Paraguay, was also in a public hospital. Again, the same thing. They just brought the baby and they say, okay, you know, you have to breastfeed the baby. But they didn't really help, but it was okay because I was already an experienced mom, and I was up on my feet the next day, you know, 24 hours later, I was already up because my mom was here. She didn't speak the language, and my mother-in-law was very busy because she had her business, and my husband had to go back to work. So, you know, you just put it into your mind, you have to get up and you have to take care. And I think that is what a lot of women are going through. We are alone. Even if we have family members, they don't know how to help us, you know, and we live in nuclear families, and we don't know how to ask for help because we are very independent women. We think we can do it all. And that's when, you know, sometimes, like Claudia was telling me, I was also crying, and I say, listening to her story. And I think sometimes you just say, okay, you know, I mean, forget about all this, but there's part of you that is saying, no, I can do it, you know. So, but my mom was good my second time round when she just said, Pushpa, take care of your baby, forget about the housework, you know. So that really helped. And my husband, for my first baby, he was a stay-at-home dad, so he was very supportive. But for my second baby, he had to work. Women need a lot of help. And Paraguay, we are very, very lucky. We have this law that gives us, since 2015, that women have 4 months of vacation, maternity leave. Did you get that, Claudia? 4 months?
No, I got 6 months because I had cesarean. And I was 6 months without like working. I was with her, and after that, I decided not to work as much as I did before. Till now, I think that this moment would pass. She's going to be big sometime, and I would miss her. You see, so I try to stay with her as much as I can. I work, but I try to stay with her as much as I can.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? Because what we want is choice, right? That's the ideal for all of us, that we have the choice. And that's where I feel very passionate about communicating this information, that Claudia, it sounds like it really, what your milk does and did for your baby and what it does for your own health, sounds like that's really a key to what kept you going. To speak about Sunbloom for a moment, the mother that started all these conversations, and her censorship on social media, because we'd like to know, what messages are we getting as women and as mothers, and where are we getting those messages from? because we base our decisions on those messages. What was your first, both of you, what was your first reaction when you saw the image and you heard that she was not allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram because she is considered sexually provocative adult content?
For me, I just thought that people needed more information. You see, um, the mentality that people have nowadays is very, I mean, people mix everything, and it's difficult to make them understand, but we have to, right? We have to continue. We don't have to stop. And I think sometimes people will know that this is good.
I looked at the painting, and I you know what it is? It's amazing. We get so much information and images of women being promoted. I mean, here on TV, sometimes women are all barely wearing clothes, and they're actually made fun of or looked beautiful, supposed to be. So that kind of images are more, we see them more than a mom breastfeeding a baby, publicly. So for some, it can be shocking because they've never seen a baby, maybe they see, oh, she's bare breast, how can she be showing and with a baby? But for me, I think women need that. We need to see more of mothers, I mean, showing off their body, but with a baby at the breast. It maybe we are not so used to it because that's not being normalized, but it's something that's very needed. And as to her facial expression, I thought it was more meditative, and sometimes I think that was what I felt when I was with my baby. I didn't care. I mean, I breastfed my son, who was 1 year old, in Malaysia, in a public function, and so there were a lot of crowd, and my son wanted to nurse, so I was wearing a sari, which it's all covered. I just pulled out my sari and my breast and sat down in a place and started to breastfeed just next to everybody. And I could see people just avoided the look. They did avoid it. And my mom was so nervous. She said, come on, cover yourself. And she's just like pulling my sari, and she says, can't you just wait? Why do you have to do it right here in front of everybody? But they don't realize that the child's needs come first, and he was hungry, and he doesn't know where we are. I wasn't showing myself. It's just, my clothes are all covered. I was just, under, and yet the very act creates something in people's minds. They stop it and they say, don't. But I learned a lot in Paraguay. They nurse for 5, 6 years, 7 years in the countryside.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, so this is common?
Yeah.
People used to stare at me like, oh, what is she doing? She's breastfeeding the baby here. She's showing up herself, you see. But it's not that. Now I just don't pay attention to that, and I'm not nervous. You see, I think that there is another thing that is more important that what other people say, right?
The community of women are so important. I mean, you asked me. I mean, I was in Paraguay. My son was born here. I only met them after when my son was a year old. When my husband read the newspapers and he said, hey, there's a conference here for women. Looks like they're all like you, who think about breastfeeding or something like that. And that's how I started to attend. One strange thing I want to share with you. My daughter is a pediatrician, and she attended a meeting, a seminar just a couple of days ago. And a doctor who was honored, and he was her pediatrician. I mean, when she was a baby. So she decided, he said, hey, guess, he's here. So we told her, go and say hello to him, So she went and introduced herself. She said, you are my pediatrician, and my mom is a Malaysian, and you know what he said? Your mother. Okay, let me see. was she the one who is so into breastfeeding? I couldn't believe it, because he actually said my son needed to be supplemented when he was too skinny, and I refused. And then later on, he would give me this videos on breastfeeding, because he said, "Oh, you're so into breastfeeding." And then when he became a grandpa, and I mean, he got to know more, and he said, "I don't understand my colleagues, why they are so against breastfeeding instead of promoting it." So I think we as mothers, Claudia and Claire, we have a lot of influence, that we can influence people around us, including professionals. And really, I'm amazed at Claudia's, that she managed to get the right kind of doctors to support her, because you always feel that the doctors and nurses are the ones who are not helping moms enough.
Yeah, that's right.
So yes, and that is a really key. And my hope for this mural is it's a great big signpost to women everywhere about the places they can find good information, accurate information that will help them. And the process of trying to put that information out and for it to be blocked by censorship, I believe is wrong. And I am going to keep inviting Facebook to have conversations with us, to see if they can be part of this and change their perspective as well. But in the meantime, if we can't give it out this way, we will go this way. Is there anything else that either of you would like to say?
Well, thank you very much for inviting to be part of this conversation. And I think sometimes, since we come from different cultures, we might look at, okay, we are not used to seeing people breastfeeding, some of us, and it's so important to, I mean, people have seen breasts of other people, but for sexual reasons, I mean, because that is being promoted and all that. And so women, we do not see ourselves in that. Our breasts are very important. It can sustain life, and it needs to be valued and respected. So I thank you very much for doing this project. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you a lot for giving me actually the opportunity to talk about my story, to tell you how I could, like, how I passed this situation with my daughter, and the importance of breastfeed in my life. You see, telling you and other women the importance of breastfeeding.
Thank you. I think both of your voices will be very, very much appreciated and important for women all over the world. So thank you so much for being open.
I can say that it wasn't easy, but with the information on your hands, we as mothers we can do it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Over the coming weeks, we'll be sharing many more conversations with you. If you'd like to know more about the project and contribute to making it happen, please visit crowdfunder.co.uk/The Motherhood Mural. We need your help to make it all happen. Thank you.